He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is the Alex Marlow Show.
All right, big Alex Marlow Show today. Dr. Sebastian Gorka is here for a long interview. We got him for almost an hour, and we go through a ton of stuff with him. I ask him what is the number one threat to America's homeland right now when it comes to counterterrorism. I ask him to connect some of the dots when it comes to what Marco Rubio is really up to with his diplomacy thus far, and whether or not this means that America is starting to finally push back against China's trade dominance. We talk a little bit about how things have changed in Ukraine. Dr. Gorka was famously a big champion of Zelensky. I think he's certainly changed his tune a little bit to a large degree. We talk through some of that. And we also get some details on those early terror attacks that we saw at the beginning of the year in New Orleans and the Trump Tower in Vegas. So all that to come. So it's going to be great stuff. I know a lot of you depend on me for a quick news update. So I'm bringing you that right now. I do encourage everyone to check out my show from yesterday where I went through why Ukraine is actually a dictatorship. There was a lot of people who are very angry in my comment section of places because Putin started the war. Like yeah, fine. Putin started the war. I mean, it was Biden's fault really, but Putin started. Yeah, but it doesn't mean that Ukraine can have no free speech, no free press, no elections, no habeas corpus, and still act like they're democracy. They're not. So very easy to solve this one. Zelensky calls an election, and now I will stop calling him a dictator. It's that simple. So you heard it here first, but it's been a while that they have not looked like a democracy. So I just don't know why we're acting like they are. But that continues to, I think, rub all the right people the wrong way, which I like. It's totally freaked out Europe. The conversation over there is beyond belief. It is so just totally wild attacks on America because they don't get it, that Europe has lost their way. They don't have an ability to defend themselves. They haven't for some time. And they certainly don't have an ability to stand up to Russia in any meaningful way without the United States supporting them. And I think Trump is fed up with it. And I think that it's a great position for us going forward in America if we can reassert our dominance everywhere. I just think it's better as a country for us to do that. I think it'll lead to fewer wars, to be honest with you, if people know that America is the cop on the beat, so to speak. All right. Other stuff I want to get into. Mitch McConnell has announced his retirement from the Senate. Great news. So great start to the show. Get to mention this. Let's play. We had a clip of Cocaine Mitch. Definitely did not. I'm warning you, any of you who are driving a car. I played this clip right before we got on started recording. This is not Cocaine Mitch. This is Quaalude Mitch. So let's check this out.
To the distinguished members of this body, I've had the privilege to lead, and I remain deeply, deeply grateful. Today, however, it's appropriate for me to speak about an even deeper allegiance and even longer standing gratitude. 7 times, my fellow Kentuckians have sent me to the Senate. Every day in between, I've been humbled by the trust they placed in me to do their business right here. Representing our Commonwealth has been the honor of a lifetime. I will not seek this honor an 8th time. My current term in the Senate will be my last.
Could you imagine if I conducted the show in that way, where I spoke at this rate and I only said obvious things? Like today, we will discuss the news. And when you share my show and leave a 5-star review, it is the honor of my life. I mean, it's just unbelievable. The guy's really lost his fastball. He has wielded power in a way that ought to be studied. He's been a very effective leader at getting stuff done that he wants to get done. I don't share his politics. He's a arch establishmentarian. He's caused tons of problems for me and my movement over the years, but is, in terms of raw power, definitely one of the most successful politicians in America over the last 100 years, you got to say. So I doesn't give me any pleasure to say that. I'm not a Mitch McConnell fan. Everyone knows that. But highly, highly effective, and glad to see him go. Very happy that he will go. We've learned Daniel Cameron's going to run for that seat. So Daniel Cameron, former Attorney General of the state, a young guy, a sharp guy, gets all the big stuff right. He was the star of the RNC, I think, in 2020. So it was really good, but we've worked with him on a number of things over Breitbart, so I'm rooting for him. Maybe there'll be some other good contenders as well. We will give you all the latest on that, but happy Mitch McConnell's gone. I met Mitch McConnell one time, and I was very impressed. It's like, not with his politics. I don't like his politics. I don't want to get taken out of context by the hysterical people out there, but he's not my type of guy politically, as anyone can track Breitbart's content to know that. But he's a smart guy, and he knew how to wield power, which is not a small thing. Knowing how to wield the power is a big deal. So I'm glad he's gone, and hopefully we'll get someone better. Hopefully Kentucky is prone to sometimes voting for Democrats, though. That is somewhat of a risk. So they occasionally will pick a Democrat governor, for example. So we're on that. That was good news. Now we go to bad news. The gruesome stuff coming out of the Palestinian territories. A parade to hand over hostages, 4 hostages getting handed over, but these are dead ones. These are dead hostages, and famous dead hostages. This is the Bibas family that was viral online. A couple of cute babies, good-looking young mother, and they're dead. Ariel and Kafir Bibas, 5 years and 9 months old at the time they were abducted. Their mother Shiri, and another 84-year-old named Oded Lifshitz. All handed over in a parade-like fashion. It was horrific stuff. Black-clad Hamas people, their faces covered, wearing balaclavas or masks, military boots, walking up with the black coffins of the dead children. Just truly disgusting stuff. And just note, that's what Hamas is all about. Even the UN condemned this handing over of the hostages in this way, in this parade-like fashion, where there was cheering and celebration from the pro-Hamas people in attendance. They were calling it abhorrent at the UN Human Rights Council. UN has absolute culpability in the October 7th attacks that started all this. So just noteworthy that it even hit them hard enough. So armed terrorists turning over these dead babies, sick stuff, sick people. They need to be destroyed. Hamas needs to be wiped off the map. And I fully support Israel's efforts to do that. They cannot be restored to power. They cannot have any path back to power. So just nasty people. The Red Cross participated in Hamas's Nazi ceremony. Unbelievable. We have this report from Joel Pollack at Breitbart. The International Committee of the Red Cross participated in the gruesome handover ceremony of 4 bodies that died in captivity in Gaza. The handover is part of a hostage ceasefire. He goes into some of the details. But where does the Red Cross fit in? A representative of the Red Cross signed documents next to mass Hamas terrorists on a stage that depicted Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu as a bloodthirsty vampire. And that held 4 coffins of the hostages, with signs on adult coffins listing October 7th as the date of their arrest. Gross. No objection from the Red Cross. Look, we got to keep an eye on these charitable groups, because they lose their moral compass. They lose their moral center, their due north morally. Very sad. This is as sad as it gets. And it's just a nice reminder to all of you to understand the nature of what Hamas is all about and why they must be destroyed. So you can be America first. You can be for not sending American troops. You can be for having a limited the desire to have any sort of foreign entanglement whatsoever, but just know that with Israel not being strong, with Hamas being alive, that region, we're just going to see just more grotesqueries like this. So Israelis are mourning, saluting the dead hostages after they hand over. A lot of dramatic scenes. You can check that out at Breitbart News. But yeah, really weird picture of Netanyahu as a vampire during this hostage handover, and Red Cross is going along with it. Yale put out a study showing the New York Times coverage of the war in Israel has been pro-Hamas. Another wild one that Joel caught for us at Breitbart, an academic study that got from Yale University tracked the New York Times since the October 7th, 2023 attacks and found a pro-Hamas bias. You don't need me to tell you that. If you ever read the New York Times, you would know that. But that is what they're all about. When Yale comes out and says that's the case, then then that is very clear. So that just shows you, what we're up against here. Those of us who are trying to fight for truth and trying to fight for any sort of sanity in that region. The New York Times favors Hamas, according to Yale. All right, something more positive. CPAC has begun. We're covering it at Breitbart News. Boyle's doing something tomorrow for us at CPAC. So I'm not a big CPAC guy. I got a mixed history with CPAC, so I could go into that at a later date. But it gives me content, so whatever. JD Vance was the opening act today, and he had some good stuff to say. Let's play a little bit of this.
We have got to persuade our fellow Americans, because now we've got the power. We've got the power of persuasion. We've got to persuade our fellow citizens that unborn life is worthy of protecting. It is sacred in the eyes of God, and it should be sacred in the eyes of man too. And we have to pick up the torch and fight for that every single day. And I know you guys are up for the task. I am too. And I think
it's a nice reminder that this is the most pro-life administration we've ever had. Trump has been the most pro-life president, and having Vance just makes him more pro-life than before. So it's great. It's good stuff. And he's totally right about this, that we need to persuade. I like that point. It's not enough for us to have the best ideas. We've always had the best ideas. It's, can we be the most persuasive? And I feel like our persuasion skills are improving, and the left's persuasion skills are getting much worse. So that's good news. He had another good rant here that everyone's been sharing online, but I want to play it for you. Here we go.
I think that our culture sends a message to young men that you should suppress every masculine urge. You should try to cast aside your family. You should try to suppress what makes you a young man in the first place. And I think that my message to young men is, don't allow this broken culture to send you a message that you're a bad person because you're a man, because you like to tell a joke, because you like to have a beer with your friends, or because you're competitive. It's our message, the cultural message, and I think the president's and mine is the exact opposite, but our cultural message is, I think that it wants to turn everybody, into, whether male or female, into androgynous idiots who think the same, talk the same, and act the same. We actually think God made male and female for a purpose, and we want you guys to thrive as young men and as young women, and we're going to help with our public policy to make it possible to do that.
It's hard to interrupt because I agree with every word of it. Of course, there's been a war on masculinity in this country that's going on for a long time. And I think there's a lot of ways to embrace masculinity, and it's not a uniform thing. And not everyone is going to look like the Thor-looking character who was jogging in front of Pete Hegseth last week. Not everyone has to go fight in a war. But encouraging separation of the sexes is really what has distinguished the human race in a lot of ways, and why we've survived is because we've diversified the role of the sexes. And it is worthy of a much longer conversation. I'm not going to do it in a big interview day. But it's his point is right on. We naturally prefer it. We all would like for men to be men and women to be women. And we've just spent so many years talking ourselves out of it. And I just think it's a very nice message. And I think it's something that a lot of women out there are probably feeling a sigh of relief that this is the case. I just look in my home. I know that my wife prefers me to be manly. She does not like when I'm not acting manly. So, which is never, because I'm incredible in that way. But and she's a catch. She's an amazing person, and she wants a man. And I just don't know why that would not be the norm for people. I just don't think the norm is we want androgynous people who are confused about their sexual identity. I don't think that is how the species continues on and thrives. So, and there really has been an effort. I don't know about his point about how you get in trouble for wanting to grab a beer. I feel like I don't think you get in trouble for that. But other stuff, just classically masculine traits are frowned upon now in society. And that's good. Good to hear him talk about it. And he is a very charismatic vessel because he's not a mean guy. He's a nice guy. A not charismatic vessel is Karen Bass. She's claimed that she wasn't aware of the fire warnings that were posted about the day before the LA fires broke out and devastated so many lives, completely destroyed much of Los Angeles and a lot of people's lives and homes and neighborhoods. The neighborhoods part is what kills me the most, is the thing about all those families who were there, who had communities, who had routines, and then those will never be the same. And she's talking about 3 to 5 years to rebuild. It might be right. She needs more urgency, though. She should not be saying that publicly. I'll tell you, if there's a big financial incentive, if she could guarantee to become president of the United States, if she got everything rebuilt in 10 months, then she'd start thinking about it. But there's not, and she can't figure it out. She's not bright enough anyway. But it could be really long time, really long, slow rebuilding process, particularly if they keep putting the wrong people in charge, which is partially up to the voters who are going to have a chance to, vote her out in a couple of years, but they're stuck with her for a little bit. But I'll tell you, this was very common knowledge that this was huge fire warnings, and she had even posted about it on her X account. So I'm not saying she's posting her own X account material, but she should be aware of what's getting posted, right? She should at least know who's posting stuff for her. But yeah, she claims she wasn't aware of the warnings. There were huge high winds, record level winds. It was all over the news. It was national news. I was preparing my family for this stuff. I was tying stuff down and I was moving stuff out of harm's way because I thought we were going to be getting hurricane level winds at a minimum. And of course, if any fire breaks out, it's just going to get caught up in the winds. It's going to blow your mind. So she said she wasn't aware. That's why she went to Ghana. No, she went to Ghana because she wanted to go to Ghana because she thinks of herself as an international figure. She doesn't think of herself as merely the mayor of LA. She thinks of herself as in a stepping stone job that gets her into national politics, either senator, vice president, or whatever. So, real dummy. Got to vote them all out. Okay, let's talk some DOGE. We got to always do a DOGE update on what's being cut. The EPA uncovered $2 billion set aside for climate groups linked to Stacey Abrams. That woman is a great knack for finding money. EPA uncovered $2 billion set aside, according to Hannah Knudsen for us at Breitbart News, for a climate group linked to Democrat Stacey Abrams' Power Forward Communities, despite the fact the organization reported just $100 in total revenue. $100 in revenue, got a $2 billion grant allegedly. That sounds like fraud to me. If that's true, it really does sound like fraud. That sounds like it's got to be illegal. So this is Power Forward Communities describes itself as the first national program to finance home energy efficiency upgrades at scale. So let's see if they did anything. No evidence, report $100 in revenue. Looks like Washington Free Beacon got the scoop on this. I want to give them shout outs if they did. Lee Zeldin found it, I think. EPA head. Whoa. A lot of fraud going on. That's why we're erring on the side of firing people. We're starting to get a little blowback. I'll go into some more on tomorrow's show, but they find some sob stories of people who got fired from government jobs. Look, it's the people get fired from private sector jobs. Government jobs should not be permanent. We got to be careful how we do it as best we can. But when you start seeing stuff like this, that there's $2 billion grants that are going out, who's cutting these checks? Where are they coming from? Who's in charge? And erring on the side, we're going to cut all this out and then maybe we'll rehire people after. It's got to be the right mindset. House Oversight Committee, $240 million spent on transgender surgeries and treatments on animals. Transgender animal surgeries and treatments, $250 million, your taxpayer dollars going to that. So this is one I'd be even more animated aside from I was aware that this one was happening. But we still reported on it. That's fresh at Breitbart. It's of course, we need to audit everything. Of course they were doing this. Exclusive story for us at Breitbart News. Senator Owrse unveils a bill to unplug $7.5 billion in Biden-era electric vehicle program. People don't really want this stuff. We're wasting tons of money. These vehicles don't go very far, as Trump says. All the car businesses are scaling back or eliminating their electric vehicles that they're already making because they're just not popular. They're popular with the government, and the government has been subsidizing huge portions of that industry. but that it's all propped up. The cars have no resale value. It's a big pain in the butt to replace the batteries. They're paying the butt to charge. We're not there yet. We don't want these things that bad. So we're cutting billions of dollars in electric vehicle programs by Biden. Biden's obsessed with this stuff. I have a lot of detail on Biden and his EV obsession in Breaking Biden, if any of you care to check it out. But we're going to have to keep cleaning it up. We're doing a good job. We're off to a good start, but we got to keep the drumbeat going. And I think that is very positive. We'll keep highlighting all this stuff, but it is still shocking and upsetting that this is the case. And the establishment media is spending most of their time trying to police anything that's slightly exaggerated or overstated by anyone who is DOGE or in DOGE or pro DOGE. So just note that. So they're wasting so much of our money. Trump's talking about giving some of it back, talking about a tax cut or maybe a one-time payout once he recuperates all this DOGE money. So that could be cool. So, all right. That'll be the news update for now. Before we dig into the interview, I do want to tell you about something that was pointed out to me by our friends at Priority Gold. The government doesn't consider your money your property. Isn't that wild? It sounds very crazy, but it's not. It's exactly what the DOJ just argued in court, claiming that cash isn't property, and thus they can seize it whenever they want. So they think your hard-earned money isn't legally yours. So that means your savings aren't safe, and it kicks the door open for Washington to freeze bank accounts, confiscate retirement savings, and really they can kind of wipe out your wealth overnight unless you've got those physical, tangible assets. So gold and silver are property. They're real. They're tangible. You can touch them. You can hold them. That's property. So not digital dollars, nothing that's theoretical that can just be erased with a click of a button or shifted around the click of a button. You got a gold bar. That's your gold bar. So that's why my pals at Priority Gold, big supporters of the show, I'm supporters of them. They have their free wealth defense guide that you should get. Exposes a little-known IRS loophole that lets you legally shield your savings, physical gold and silver. You text FREEDOM to 24999 right now. Get a free copy. This 24999 right now, free copy. Go to PriorityGold.com. It's another way to get it. Text FREEDOM to 24999. That means you just pick up your text message. You open up your chat window, your direct message window. You don't need to type out a full phone number. That's what confuses some people. You don't need 7 digits. You don't need 10 digits. You don't need a country code. You don't need 11 digits. You don't need the plus sign. 24999. That's their phone number. Text FREEDOM there and you get your free guide. Cool. All right, let's get into it. All right. Well, one of my favorite people in the world is now also a member of the President's National Security Council, a top advisor to the president. I'll get the exact title right in the lower third on the screen. I always get it confused, but we know him. We love him. Not only is he Dr. Sebastian Gorka, my former colleague at Breitbart, and my barely a little bit colleague at Salem for a little while, and then also his wife, Katie, has the great Happy Women's podcast at Salem as well. So we're all family here, but we're going to talk some serious stuff. Dr. G, first of all, congrats on all the winning. Tell me about life.
Well, thank you. Life is a little bit different. It's funny, Alex. A few months ago, I have 2 chronic diseases I suffer from. I can't go past a gun store without buying a gun, and I can't go past a book. Do you remember when bookstores existed? I can't go past a bookstore without buying a book, and I have a lot of books. It's a little bit of a bone of contention between me and my wife. And I was looking, because in my studio, my former Salem studio, I put all of my counterterrorism books, and it's a lot of books. I was looking at them a few months ago before the election. And I was thinking, that was a past life. That was a different epoch in my existence, and it was really quite bittersweet because I was moving out of my studio, which is a little bit sad after 6.5 years. And I've got some amazing team members who are also bibliophiles. And I was going through all my books, and I think, oh my gosh, I need this book again. Bernard Lewis, the history of the Islamic world, and all of this stuff. And let me just answer your question very, very succinctly. I've been waiting for this job for 24 years. So I don't know what I'm going to do next. I think I have to take up poetry because when you're senior director for counterterrorism for the most consequential president of the modern age, I think I put that on my LinkedIn, and I'm kind of done, Alex. I don't know what next, right? So I'm living the dream.
It's really interesting because my question, the first question I thought of when you logged on was, is this what you were meant to do, what you're doing right now for the president?
I have to say I pinch myself every day. And I'm not being kind of, this isn't about me, but
no, but you're a friend here. This isn't a normal interview. So,
but I appreciate it. And you are a dear friend of mine. And I look at just the first 2 weeks, and I don't want to tempt fate. And, people ask me, what's it like to be back in the White House? And I say, it is a concatenation of ecstasy and PTSD after what happened last time. But it's a little bit different this time around. And I look at just the first 2 weeks, and I say, you know what? I've achieved more in those 2 weeks than the counterterrorism team did in the last 4 years. Not because of any fault of themselves, but because of who was in the White House, who was in the Oval Office, who Jake Sullivan was. Now I work for this incredible Green Beret Mike Waltz. And I think if somebody told me a few years ago that I'm an immigrant to the United States and I'm walking into the Oval Office with Mike Waltz with an operational package for the president to sign off with his, iconic Sharpie pen. And he looks up from the Resolute desk 2 weeks ago and he says, well, what do you mean the Biden administration was surveilling an ISIS leader in Somalia for almost 2 years and we didn't do anything? Kill him. And he gives us the go order, and literally less than 30 hours later, I'm in the Situation Room underneath the West Wing, like from all the movies. We've got a go time 9:50 on Saturday morning. I'm there with my team members. We're waiting for Mike Waltz. And it was unbelievable because it was 9:50 was the bombs on target. And it's 9:48. And we're going, where's Mike? Where's the National Security Advisor? And he walks in 90 seconds before go time. He sits down coming from another meeting. And we have these floor-to-ceiling TV screens in the sit room. And then suddenly we're in an episode of 24. So suddenly we're in a Jason Bourne movie, and this cave complex starts exploding. And it's not a movie. It's not special effects. President Trump, Mike Waltz is bringing justice to jihadis on the other side of the planet, and we're watching it in real time. And I have a military guy on my team who, I don't know how he did this, John, just God bless you. Within 4 hours, he's declassified the top secret footage from what we were watching. We send it to Mar-a-Lago. President Trump posts it, and there's that viral tweet with the block letters. You want to come after Americans?
Wow.
We will find you and we will kill you. That's an average day for me nowadays.
But this is such an interesting point because I was just doing a little writing right before we started this interview, Dr. G, and I couldn't stop but think about how it does feel like more has already been accomplished in the first 3 weeks of this administration than in the last 4 years of Joe Biden. But also, to be frank, the first 4 years of Trump, it just feels like we've just done more already that you can't even keep track of it. It's such a whirlwind, even for me. I imagine being in the thick of it, that it feels the same for you. So what do you think has happened that's big that maybe we've missed so far? Or at least not got to dwell on enough?
Wow. I mean, pick your topic. I think, and look, we're working hard, but, I've got this amazing team that supports me. Let me tell you something. The guys working for Stephen Miller, I went to work on President's Day, and there was not a lot of people in the White House because I get the president's daily briefing, and I said, I want to read the briefing every day. I don't care if it's a holiday. So I went to the sit room to the West Wing, and then I see this whole group of people traipse in, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's the Homeland Security Council. That's Stephen Miller's people. They haven't got, I think they're getting about as much sleep in the last 4 weeks as President Trump because, Tony, you know who you are, and he's telling me, yeah, it's 3 a.m. And Stephen Miller's saying, okay, where's that plane to Venezuela, Tony? Get the deal. Where is that? And it's like, Justin, can we talk about the border? Okay, here's something we don't talk about. And, a lot of my job isn't just letting the war fighters do what they're meant to do and unleashing them. I think one of the most important things I can do, and I see this from the kind of business as usual attitude I get from a lot of people in the bureaucracy, is to, I'm calling it reset the azimuth. So to recalibrate everything the government thinks about when it comes to foreign policy, national security, and especially counterterrorism, to kind of say, you know what? 77 million Americans chose President Trump. And you know, when I do that recalibration, you know, I'm very explicit about what the president wants. And to illustrate that for people who, you know, are stuck in their groove, they've been doing the same job in the intelligence community or whatever for 10 years, I say, hey, did you think about just one image of the last 3 weeks? Think of the photograph of my buddies, and this is a big difference also from the first time around, the first administration. Everybody knows everybody. I mean, I'm friends with Pete Hegseth, Kath Patel, Pam Bondi, John Ratcliffe, you name it, Rick Grenell. We're all friends, so you can get all the stuff done when your friend is running the DOJ, right? And I say, guys, have you thought of the photograph of Tom Homan with Pete Hegseth at the border? Just stop. In the history of modern politics, when have you seen a White House Homeland Security official, advisor, czar, at the border with the Secretary of Defense? That one snapshot tells you just how deeply different things are and what we're really missing. Alex, I don't want to oversell it, but this is a government, and then you add in Elon Musk. This is a government that is doing things I didn't think were possible. And I mean, are there more MAGA people than me? I'm blown away by what we're seeing. If I'm impressed, we are living. I think that's what we're missing, Alex. You, me, everyone in the world, whether you voted for him or not, we are living history right
that's
now.
how it feels. It feels like this is a truly historical moment. I was thinking about, I was trying to do a little bit of back of the napkin history. Is that a thing, Misty? I don't think that is. Back of the napkin history. Back of the napkin math might be the thing. But there you go. I'm trying to figure out what is there a historical precedent, and if anything, maybe Roosevelt seemed to move pretty quick. There was the middle of the Depression, and obviously there was between world wars. And that's it. I got one name out of, 40, what is it? How many presidents have there been? Because Trump counts twice, and then
45, right? Because we've had Coolidge, or what was it?
So maybe we got at a minimum top two, and I think I'm going to have Boyle put something out on that front to make sure Trump gets to number one by 100 days, like to make sure there's no doubt that he's number one.
I don't think Roosevelt did 400 executive actions in 3.5 weeks.
We got the record on the executive actions for sure. I'm just trying to figure out. I want to be fair. People know they come to the show not for happy talk. They come to the show for accuracy here, and it does feel like we're 3 weeks in. We're top two most productive first month of the administration.
Think of another image in the history of modern government, in the history of from Dewey Decimal on down. Give me a photograph, Alex, of a massive government institution with the person on the ladder taking the sign down, like USAID. I can't remember one. When did government dissolve itself? Never. And that was 2 weeks in. And you look at the stories, and of course, they want to say, oh my gosh, big balls and naughty tweets. This is like 6 guys, one of them who's 19 years old, 6 guys in the bowels of AID who are making the taxpayers' money actually matter once more and taking ideology out of what should be development aid to other countries. I think you're so right that we need to stop. What is it the kids say? Touch the grass. We need to touch the MAGA grass. And just understand the enormity of everything that's happening, the economy, the border. The president of Colombia complains, and then the president says, "Okay, well, I'm going to tariff you 40 minutes later. Do you want my presidential jet?" I mean, if you wrote that in a story,
it wouldn't be as good because you wouldn't have the Pod Save America guys coming in and acting like Trump was about to get dunked on by the cokehead alcoholic president of Colombia. Which of course, it's like, oh, he's got him now. We're in a trade war now. It's like, what are you talking about? Lasted 4 hours and we won.
And also, it's just the idiots. I mean, nobody, and again, I'm doing this inside government to explain to people and even to the foreign partners, because, our closest partners come and visit me to say, hey, tell us about President Trump, our CT partners. And I say, do you understand what President Trump did with Gaza? I mean, let's just be the truth of it.
Well,
the comment
Dr.
he made,
Diaz, we call it Gaza Lago out here.
Yeah, Gaza Lago. I love those meetings.
Or the MAGA strip, one or the other. If you could do either way.
If you actually thought that they're going to be gold-plated Trump towers in Gaza, you're a clinical cretin. Okay, why President Trump said that is the art of the deal. If you haven't read the book, I don't care if you love him or you hate him. If you haven't read the book,
you got to read the book.
You know nothing.
It's sort of essential if you want to understand them.
Read the book on the rail yard deal in New York. Just read this 4-page thing on the rail yard properties and how he got others to pay for it and revitalized that whole area of New York that was just a train yard. I mean, just read that 4-page segment. Anyway, he says the comment. They're like, what did he just say? And then what happens? Cat amongst the pigeons, hand grenade into the bunker, and nations who've done nothing for the Gazans, nothing for 50 years from the region say, oh my gosh, how outrageous. And then 5 days later, they say, yeah, we might want to help rebuild Gaza. That's the art of the deal. You shake the tree, right? That's the magic. Nothing. And this isn't hyperbole. Watch the last 4 weeks. Nothing is impossible to this. Can I tell you a story about the night? So this was Thursday 2 weeks ago when we went into the Oval Office to present the president with the operational, plan for the Somalia strike against ISIS. And, getting scheduled time with the president, you got to be a little bit flexible. So my Delta Force guy and myself, we were standing outside the Oval for about 50 minutes because, things are a little bit plastic with the president's, meetings. And he does the usual thing. He sees me through the doorway and he's got Rubio and he's got Rick Grenell and he's got the Secretary of Commerce who was just confirmed, Lutnick, right? Sitting in front of the Resolute desk, and they're talking and about big issues. And he sees me standing there. He says, so my CT colleague and I sit on the couch in the Oval while we're waiting for these cabinet members to finish talking to the president. And finally, Rick says, I got to go. Rick Grenell stands up because he says, I got a flight to Venezuela tonight to negotiate for our hostages. And I look at him and say, good luck, Rick. Tell us if you need us to send in Delta for you, right? And then, we make a joke and he leaves. And then Mike Waltz and I and my colleague, we present the op plan and he signs it off and then, the operation happens. But think of it. This is mind-blowing. Rick Grenell shakes my hand Thursday night, 6 p.m. And then we go and do our stuff. And I'm leaving the office the next evening, finally trying to catch up with media on my phone. And I see Rick Grenell's selfie from the plane with the 6 hostages. And it's less than 24 hours later. And I'm thinking, this is photoshopped. This is a troll account. Rick Grenell couldn't have gotten 6 Americans released from Venezuela in less than 24 hours. Alex, it beggars belief.
Yeah, it really does. It's the efficiency of it is what is just so mind-blowing. But one other thing that's interesting, and I'm sure some of the audience are already thinking about this, about how you're very relaxed having this conversation, and it was easy for me to get you on. It feels like the people who are the top people have been very forthcoming with interviews. They're out there. It's not really treated. It's interesting, as efficient as you've all been, there's also a hang loose sort of charismatic vibe. Like all this footage of Hegseth doing, workouts overseas with Thor. It's all intentional. It's all stagecraft in a really genius way. But what changed here? Because in the last administration, it was very tight. It was very hard to get anyone. It was always treated like a big deal. There were always monitors whenever I had a White House meeting. there were always minders who were there, who keeping an eye on things in a way that was obviously designed to do something I couldn't totally understand. That's not happening. You're watching. I was just played on my show yesterday a 4-minute clip of Stephen Miller just trolling CNN. It was like he was doing it for fun. He was just showing up just to make fun of them, and it was just.
When are they going to? When is CNN going to realize?
I don't know.
It's like Vicini from Princess Bride. I mean, do not get involved in a land war in Asia. Don't invite Stephen Miller on your show to talk immigration. It just don't. You're suicidal.
No, well, I likened it to when Ben Shapiro dates 19-year-old debates 19-year-olds on campus.
Debates.
But this is a veteran CNN reporter, and Miller just making fun of her questions basically, and it's a total delight. And I just wonder if they understand that they're just providing content for conservative podcasts. Is basically what they're doing now.
Well, look, it's very different. So I had a viral post. So let's compare the two Trump administrations. President Trump used to call me when he wanted to talk to me on Sundays or Saturday afternoon. Why? Because his chief of staff, John Kelly, was monitoring his phone calls during the week. Can we just sanity check? We don't have subversives inside the building. We don't have a chief of staff who's literally a saboteur. I think I had this viral tweet because I showed the president's new challenge coin. How did I get the challenge coin? I didn't follow protocol. I mean, Susie is an amazing chief of staff, but I said, I'm doing my CT thing in the skiff in the Eisenhower building. But, it's the first week of the Trump administration. I want to see the boss. So I just walk into the Oval, right? And nobody's policing me. He's got guests in there. He says, Seb, have you seen this? And he pulled the drawer of the Resolute desk, and there's these massive new presidential challenge coins. He said, have you seen my challenge coin? It's it's not loosey-goosey, but it's a team of people who trust each other working for the president. To your point about access, and I'm sorry to hear about what they did to
it was really bad, and I definitely protected myself, I think, mentally from exploring it fully, and I haven't yet. I will with the audience at some point when we have. But I want you to have the forum mostly. But it is really, you can see the contrast is just so stark. It's just
yeah. Well, let me try, and I'm not giving you any inside whatever, but as the recipient of a process, let me say what I think is changed in one way. So I didn't have to interview for this job, right? The president wanted me back. A lot of people, cabinet level people, had to go to Mar-a-Lago and be interviewed, right? We've all read the stories, who was going to be Treasury Secretary, whatever, right? I didn't have to interview. However, I was told, and this is really funny, this is fun inside baseball. Well, there are several people who are being considered for your position. Could you send us 30-second clips of your media appearances talking about President Trump's policies? And I'm going, I do 3 hours of radio a day. You want 30-second clips? Okay. So I picked, me destroying, what's the guy, the CNN guy who looks like with the spiky one, Anderson Cooper. So I did the Anderson Cooper thing. I just sent some fun ones, a little clip from the CPAC speech, and I sent it to Mar-a-Lago. And then a cabinet member told me, yeah, you didn't have to come for an interview, but the 3 top people were in a room with big poster board photographs of the 3 candidates, and they watched your reels. So what is that, Alex? What is that? He wants people who know what they're doing, right? I've been doing 25 years of counterterrorism. But what does he also want? Why Pete Hegseth for SecDef? Why Pam Bondi? Why do we have Alina Habba counter? Why? Because they're not just people who are warriors who know what they're doing. They know how to communicate America First and MAGA. You can trust them, right? The press team let me do what I need to do because they trust me. And I love my NSC press team and Caroline and everybody else. But the president realizes, yes, he doesn't sleep, but he only has 24 hours in a day. So what does he need? He needs team members who can be real
Right.
top-level surrogates, not just the official press team, but actual cabinet-level, NSC-level surrogates, and it's bloody genius. I mean, you know this stinking city. More than 50% of anything is packaging, right? It's delivery. We can have the best policies in the world, and this is the biggest sin of conservatives for the past 40 years. We had all the answers, but we didn't know how to sell them. The left knew how to sell lies. President Trump understands communication. So I think this time around, we have this perfect, recipe.
Yeah, that's right. And I feel like that it's just so my language, having come from the Andrew Breitbart School of Conservatism, that the medium is the message, and that you really have to be culture first, presentation first, and then your competence level. You have all the competent, well-meaning people in the world. It's not even intentions, even like you have great intentions, but you have to be able to sell the soap. And that was one of the reasons.
Right. I mean, can I tell you another funny? People love these stories. So I saw Elon. I bump into Elon quite a bit, and we say hi, and I think he knows who I am. And I bumped into his son, X, in the elevator last week. That was the cutest thing. He was so like, I'm so embarrassed. No, it's not me. Don't look at me. It was super cute. Anyway, I'm coming out of the Eisenhower building a few days ago. Anyway, and Elon's coming down behind me, and I do the awful thing, and I say, "Can I have a selfie? We take a photograph." And then he realizes who I am, and he says, "Hey, what's the number one counterterrorism threat to America?" And I give him a little spiel, and then I say, "But don't worry about it, because we've got Tom Homan to get rid of them."
Wow.
And then what does he say as he's walking into the West Wing? It says, "Tom Homan, I love that guy. Straight out of Central Casting." I mean, it's like, he gets it too.
What was your answer? What's the number one threat in your opinion?
Open borders for 4 years under Biden and Harris, and our bad guys will of course send thousands of people in here if they can when they know the borders are open. And then I said, "Don't worry about it, because you got Tom Homan."
Amazing. Yeah, and Homan also is another guy who the fact that he's out of Central Casting, we love it. It's entertaining, but it's also very effective. And that's why I've been saying on the show that him doing ice raids with Dr. Phil, I want him to do ice raids with every celebrity, get the hottest chick on HBO, whoever's got 30 million TikTok followers, get them out there doing ice raids.
Hey, you know what? I'm going to tell him that. That is genius. That's like President Trump going on all the podcasts.
It's the same thing.
That's genius. Okay, give me your top 5 hot conservative podcasters, and I'll
absolutely. No, I said
Tom.
that. So he's got to go with the Nelk Boys, which are the conservative podcasters. He's got to get them out there, like doing the ice raids. But I want to get the good-looking women out there. I see.
Yeah, come on. Give me
I
the names.
like
Text them to me.
the
All right?
Kristi Noem deportation Barbie thing that she's doing. Yes. I think it's great. I think it creates a tension that we're taking it dead serious, that we're going to be doing the deportations. Do not come here. The broadcasting, let's talk about this in terms of immigration. I want all the deportations. That's great. All that is great. I want to reform visa overstays. I want to end chain migration, all that. But I feel like what's going on with Homan and with Noem is the messaging that America's closed now. We now have law and order. Yeah. Do not come. And that's the biggest thing. Everything else we can get through over time. I would still want the wall and deportations, all that stuff. But if people stop trying to get in illegally, that's got to be goal number one by mile, right?
Totally. I mean, absolutely. And this is why, I don't know who made this decision, but unlike, certain other members of the incoming cabinet, and maybe, Tom just, got an informal sign off from the president. Do you remember from, November the 6th to Inauguration Day, you couldn't turn on the television without seeing Tom Homan. I mean, he was coming out of the faucets, right? He just everywhere. And within 2 weeks, caravans were organically turning around. Why? Because Tom Homan is saying, Mr. Chicago Mayor, you want to obstruct me? Well, you might end up in prison. If they're prepared to put, a Democrat mayor in prison for obstruction of justice and aiding and abetting an illegal, you better not come here in the first place. So that's you're so right to bring up Andrew's name. It's pure Breitbart.
It is pure Breitbart. I've been feeling it more more than ever, even more than the first time, which is it's the same historical lineage that Andrew has in MAGA America. But I really felt it even more now than I have in the past. Dr. G, I want to get to some policy issues that's going on. Today was a huge day on the Ukraine front. President Trump completely shifted his rhetoric on Ukraine and calling Zelensky a dictator, being very aggressive, saying that he had actually gotten $350 billion in American dollars, which I didn't know that. I thought it was like 170, so that number is much higher. And Zelensky, we know, he's not calling for elections, even though he's overdue to stand for elections. He's eroded free speech and he's cracked down opposition parties. So it's not good looks. If you're a Zelensky fan, you have to admit these are not good optically, good moves for him. And the president's getting very aggressive. What is you're someone who's been complimentary of him in the past and are now towing the line for Trump. Can you tell us what's changed? Because I feel like Zelensky's changed a little bit, and I feel like Trump sees that.
I know nothing's really changed beyond one very significant factor. President Trump is ready to facilitate the end of the conflict. And it seems as if we have one intransigent party to those negotiations, which oddly is the nation that was invaded in the first place. And, to quote Mike Waltz, my boss, the national security advisor, who just, 2 days ago, said very accurately, this is a meat grinder. I mean, whatever your take is on who started it and, NATO this and NATO that and what have you, hundreds of thousands of young men have died. It is a literal meat grinder, the likes of which we haven't seen since the end of World War II, and it's happening on the Eurasian landmass. And as such, it needs to end. And President Trump's number one priority, whether it's Gaza, whether it's Ukraine, is to stop the bloodshed. And so he's opened the aperture. The bloodshed must end. You need to come to the table, whether you're Vladimir Putin or whether you're Vladimir Zelensky. So I don't know what the calculus is in Kiev, but there's only one man who will facilitate and catalyze a ceasefire and then hopefully a lasting peace. And it's my boss, President Trump. So I think the only thing that's changed is the level of frustration from the president, who is ready to save those two countries from sending more of their young men to die. That's what's changed.
So one thing that seems to be a pattern, at least in recent history, that money seems to solve a lot of these international conflicts from people. Everyone feels like they can make more money and have a more stable economy than they end up figuring out excuses not to fight each other more often than not. Not say there aren't some exceptions, the jihadis, et cetera, obviously are exception, but there's a lot, it's kind of is what fits. So I'm looking at Ukraine, and I feel like that the gravy train ending is the reason why they're not more compliant here. It is very clear that there's the two gorillas in the room are Russia and the U.S. That was made clear in Riyadh. I want to get some more thoughts for you on that. But what is it that you think that Ukraine is looking for in this? And then I want to talk about Russia next, but let's take Ukraine first.
Yeah. Look, I would prefer for you to have my friend Andrew Peake, who is the senior director for Europe and Russia, to give you the deep dive on those questions. It's not because, I want to stay in my lane necessarily, but, these are the people who have those portfolios. At the end of the day, if you're talking about rational actors, and you're so right to separate those from, jihadis or others who are, have different ideologies, it doesn't make any sense to me because, Alex, war is a gravy train. Yeah, I get it. But you know what else is an amazing gravy train? Rebuilding.
Sure. Yeah, it is. That's right.
Rebuilding war zones. I mean, how much money have we pumped into Gaza in the last 40 years, right? So, and don't get me wrong, the accusations from Zelensky about how, well, we only received this much and we haven't seen the rest of it. Well, it may be in a certain political family's bank accounts or their 21 shell companies. So I'm sure not every dollar that was promised to Ukraine ended up in Ukraine, and some of it ended back up here in certain family bank accounts. But at the end of the day, the gravy train, I don't buy the gravy train argument, because you can still make money or profit or have sinecures or what have you without having tens of thousands of your fellow countrymen die every few weeks.
That is.
You can still do that, right? I need to know more, but it's not counterterrorism.
Okay, sure. That makes sense. I did want to get. Do you have any thoughts on the nature of the meeting taking place in Riyadh? Because I feel like that was really interesting, because it could be the beginning of perhaps opening up. I'm looking down the field. I'm looking at this as a big chess match, and I'm thinking about global trade. I'm thinking about China. I'm thinking about a new alignment of allies, perhaps working towards bringing Russia back into the Eurozone versus the sort of Sinosphere. Am I getting over my skis here, or do I feel like that maybe that's what this is all about?
You're being pretty forward-leaning. I'm not sure whether you're going to tip off over your skis, but I will say you're absolutely right in saying the trade aspect, and not just to the benefit of the United States, but the global trade aspect of everything the president does. People don't understand. I mean, he is driven as a businessman by the idea of free trade and fair trade. And he, if there's anybody in the world who truly believes, and has proven it in the last 50 years, that a rising tide can float all boats higher, and that the pie can always, unlike the socialists, you can always make the pie bigger with innovation, with talent. You're not divvying up the same size pie. You can always make it better and bigger. So bringing new players to the table. And let's be brutally honest with regards to Russia. Yes, there have been certain advantages with regards to certain, these things start to get into sensitive territory, certain military innovation that has been, I mean, just look at the YouTube videos about the uses of drones and what have you. But there's certain advantages to learning things about new warfare that a real war gives you the opportunity more than any laboratory ever would. But oh my gosh, I think they're ready. I think Russia's also ready to stop. Remember, one important part of the collapse of the Soviet Union was what? People talk about the economy and the Brandenburg Gate speech by President Reagan. Yeah, absolutely true. But one of the most important things that is forgotten is that after 8 years of war in Afghanistan, the mothers and the grandmothers actually were prepared to speak publicly about the 19-year-olds coming home in, cardboard box coffins from Central Asia. And they said, enough of the meat grinder. The Afghan war was one of the key, stakes in the heart of the original Soviet Union. And we've seen this already in Russia. We've seen, especially rural populations, say, what's with all the caskets coming home? So at the end of the day, it's not a surprise that whatever President Zelensky is doing, the Russians are already at the table. And the Russians are at the table because, you know what? They understand that President Trump is not to be trifled with. Ask the members of the Wagner Group, who we dealt with in a rather kinetic fashion in Syria. Now, I love to remind people, the Russia collusion garbage. No president, not even the great Ronald Reagan, no president since the October Revolution of 1917 killed 400 Russian mercenaries in 4 hours. Only my boss, President Trump, did in Syria, in the first Trump administration. So, and the fact that the then administration in the Kremlin didn't even hold a press conference to complain understands that they know exactly who President Trump is.
He sold Ukraine weapons. He killed 600 people in the Wagner Group in Syria. He crushed the Russian fossil fuel industry, gas industry,
Nord Stream
gas
pipeline.
industry. I feel like we've been saying this for how long now? 8 years, Dr. G. But it just is, when you're reminded of these stuff, you just feel like you just are walking a different planet than the people who host Meet the Press in Washington Week on PBS.
But let's just revel in it, Alex. I mean, how delicious is it that we're 29 days into this historic, epoch-changing administration, and the establishment still doesn't get it. The establishment, Alex, is blaming an air traffic accident in Canada on President Trump. I mean, I just can't wait for the midterms. Aren't you excited?
Oh, I'm really excited, but I feel like it was so high stakes. That's why I'm so excited that people are acting with a sense of urgency we absolutely did not see the first time around. I felt like, I mean, I understand it. Yeah.
But my point is the other side hasn't had any course correction.
No, it's the opposite. They're checkmated, where they find themselves in a position where they're either going to have to work with you guys, which they won't, or just announce that every sort of expenditure, transgender experimentation in Kosovo is worthy of U.S. tax dollars when we're running a $30 trillion, in debt. So that's where Trump's got them totally in checkmate, and they have no.
But not only that, think about your colleagues in the establishment press. All the AP has to do is agree with Google.
Yeah.
Think about it. They have to agree with Google that the Gulf of America is the Gulf of America.
They can't do it. I really don't understand it. It's totally bizarre to me. The Washington Post asked us about it, and I said, why would they die on this hill? Well, why would they not call the Gulf of America by its rightful name? I just don't understand it. Why would this be, of all the things that they've done, it's just giving Trump exactly the moral high ground. They just give it to him. If you're going to just be so annoying, there's no one. I'm a big free speech guy. I'm not going to go out there and defend you with your clown behavior. We can call on someone else. It's the press pool. We don't need you, AP. It's already better reporting on the X platform and of course at Breitbart than there is at the AP anyway. So it's just you're not necessary. Just stop lying to your audience just to try to be annoying. So I love it. I love that Trump has dug in on that. I got to ask about China's reaction to the Riyadh meeting. Really, they're freaking out. And they do this in their establishment press, which is state press. And sometimes it's all propaganda, so you can't take it literally per se. Yeah. But it was interesting that they are openly being alarmed at and they're trying to drive a wedge between the U.S. and Europe. Europe's not even at the table also. Is really the biggest thing that I think could harm China right now from this perspective is if the U.S. is able to somehow pull Russia away from China's connection to Russia. They've got to be thinking about this. But what's your reaction? I'm sure you've been on top of it. Where's China in all this, in your view?
China is in a very, very hard place. If you look at all the leaders beneath Xi who have disappeared or who have retired in the last 18 months, that's never a good sign for a regime. And I remember because I was watching it live on television in Hungary when the Romanian regime collapsed. Do you remember? I mean, you're too young, but Christmas Day 1989, of course, Ceausescu banned Christmas. So Christmas was replaced with the Celebrate the Dictator Day. And he would go to the balcony of the palace, and then, the population were forced into the square underneath and chanting, "Long live the president." And there's this moment where they start booing him. And you can see Elena's face. You can see Nikolai's face. And they're like, does not compute. My country loves me. And what happens? One of the most Stalinist regimes. We had Enver Hoxha's Albania, we had East Germany, and we had Romania. These are the worst of the worst after the death of Stalin. And this is like one of the tightest dictatorships in the world. Within minutes, he's on the roof of the building, escaping in a military helicopter. The pilot fakes an emergency landing. They are hitchhiking in the middle of nowhere, get picked up by the local military base. They have an impromptu military tribunal and then a firing squad 3 days later. And Helena, the mother of Romania, is looking there and saying, "Don't you know who I am? I'm the mother of your country," as they start to load their rifles, and then she's dead. There's this paradox situation that what is it? One of the Star Wars movies? The tighter, you clench your fist, the more you lose control. And you look at the economy, you look at President Trump's tariff policies, you look at how he's changing the geopolitical, economic trend lines. Xi Jinping is committed to the 100th anniversary of the revolution in 2048, seeing China as the only hegemon in the world. And I'm sorry, President Trump is not going to let that happen. So whether it's getting the Russians to the table in Saudi Arabia, whether it's being the man who's going to bring peace to Europe while 30 other nations have failed, what country, okay, let's put it this way, if you're Xi Jinping, what country matters in the world today, Alex? What country matters?
There's only one right now. There's only one right now. Yeah, it's the and that's what I liked about him saying he's going to make it Gaza Lago, even though of course you're dumb if you're taking it literally. And I get if you were, then you just can't learn. You're so thick that you can't get it. But the point is that he is saying that basically we're going to call the shots, and no one's going to say anything about it.
Yes,
because everyone has been calling the shots for, I was saying, my whole life. So, almost 30 years of following the news. My dad, Robert, said to me, Alex, it's been my whole life. Like, I'm 7 years old. Like, it's been forever. There's been no hope in that region. So Trump's gonna say, we're gonna keep an eye on things now. And I'm a builder. I've got a vision for it. And I
want to. This is something that's been going through my head, and I haven't thought it out in flowery terms, but we'll do it in Breitbartian terms for the hobbits. So the message is, we are going to do what we want, but it's not to your detriment. If you want to join us, you can join us. Hey, Mexico, you want to clear up the cartels that are killing Mexicans every day? Let's do it together. Hey, Canada, do you want to stop jihadis crossing the border? Do you want to have a fentanyl czar? We'll fight this thing together. This is what the left cannot, from The Economist on down, even the Financial Times, even the Wall Street Journal, they will never understand this. The establishment class, the left wing. President Trump isn't the screw you chief executive. He's the, hey guys, I've got a great plan. Do you want to be part of it? It's really not that complicated. It's like, can I make an analog to my day job?
Yeah, sure.
In recalibrating the azimuth of counterterrorism, there's lots of, you need to have, big theories, big plans, big strategies. You've got to have these PCCs, these policy coordination committee meetings in the NSC. And thanks to my wife, of course, because, every wise man marries up. She said something to me last week that is just genius. She said, you know what? In all these meetings you're having and you're running counterterrorism for the president, for Mike Waltz, you know the question you have to answer, it's the 9/11 question. Man, was she right. Whether I'm talking to the CIA, whether I'm talking to Delta Force, whether I'm talking to, Pete Hegseth in his office, I think I was his first visitor. The only question that matters is, are we preventing the next mass casualty event in America? Everything I do in my portfolio is defined by that one question. And the same goes for the president. Everything we do is defined by prosperity and safety. Do you want to be part? It's not a complicated question. Do you want to be part of a prosperous relationship with us where we're all safe? And man, does he deliver. And if you want to be part of that, get on board. If you want to be Maxine Waters screaming at a working class security guard outside USAID, it's what you just said, the incapacity to learn.
Yeah.
The utter do you want safety and prosperity? It's not a trick question.
Dr. G, I want to ask a few more because I don't want to take too much of your time because I love to do these regularly. So one of the interesting conversations online has been with regards to Iran, which is one of the biggest state sponsors of terrorism. They're nuclear, but they're years off from being able to, I think, get a bomb that's sort of miniaturized, I guess, would be the expression, so they could get it into some of the biggest, I would say, metropolitan areas where they could do the most damage of our allies. But we're close enough, and so I'm concerned about them. A lot of the online right is, I think, thinking that Iran's not a big threat. We should not worry about it. Where's the president's policy on Iran as of now?
Again, we are supposed to make policy in the National Security Council, but I don't see myself as, dictating. I also see everywhere I go, I say, hey guys, I want to help you out as well. You got to understand the president. Let me give you a few tips. And one of the key tips I give every partner inside the empire that is national security is, when you look at the region of the world that is the Middle East, this benighted part of the world, whatever the policy, and we're like having all kinds of meetings on Syria and the future of Syria, but whatever you're looking at, whether it's Gaza, whether it's Israel, whether it's Syria, whatever it is, you have to have one overlay, one key lens through which the whole region is being viewed by President Trump. And that's whatever the policy is you're doing for that specific country or issue, the question is, how much does it weaken Iran? I'm giving you a tip, guys, because you saw the president in the Oval Office last week, what he said about Iran and about, well, if they come after me, I've left an envelope for JD and, you will be obliterated. There's a reason he says stuff like that, because it's not just Iran that says, America must be destroyed. We have threat groups. We have Houthis. We have Al-Shabaab that are making it impossible for the sea lanes to be traversed by civilian ships that are attacking our military vessels and our aircraft. That's not because the Houthis are really good at, building surface-to-air missiles. It's because Iran is helping them. That's why. So when it comes to Iran, it is very, I hate this phrase and I detest anyone who uses it in front of me, but let's have fun at the expense of, what was her name? Chris Plant calls her cringe. Remember Karine Jean-Pierre? I think she invented this phrase, I detest it. Top of mind. Top of mind. I will quote cringe. Whenever we look at the Middle East and terrorism, the president, me, Mike Waltz will have top of mind Iran, because Iran is and remains the greatest state sponsor of terrorism. The fact that this is unclassified, we know they have been plotting to kill senior U.S. officials. I don't care who you vote for. That's bad.
Yeah, that's bad, and definitely worth some attention. Dr. G, let me ask a couple other quick ones. Do you feel like we got a good picture of what went on at the Trump Hotel on, I guess it was New Year's Day? Was that when it was?
What are you talking
with the
about?
explosion of the Tesla.
Oh, yeah, the Tesla. Oh, you mean
in Vegas? Yes.
Yeah. So I'm focusing on New Orleans because of the jihadi content there. I'm not satisfied with some of the things I'm hearing, which has to do with technological aspects of the investigation, and I'm not going to, like a dog with a bone, I'm not going to give up on that. With regards to Vegas, let me first say I've seen some truly reprehensible things said, especially out of quote unquote conservative sources, with regards to this individual who was a Green Beret. And the Green Beret is very close to my heart. I was in Fort Bragg yesterday. I'll say one thing that's open source. If you're an individual who wants to kill as many people as possible, and you're a former Green Beret, you don't pack the vehicle you're about to detonate full of fireworks. Right? A Green Beret knows things that other people don't know, and he's not going to put, Roman candles in the back of the truck. So I'm not going to prejudge it, but one of my favorite commentators out there said, "Oh, my dad, looked at this case, and he says it looks to me like an exquisite, extravagant form of suicide." I'm not saying that's what it is, but it's more likely a plea for help than anything else. If I know more and we get it declassified, I promise you I will share it with you, with Breitbart, and with the American people. But I look at the history of this individual. He's a Green Beret. It's not like the movies. All these movies about former special forces operator becomes assassin. I'm sorry, that doesn't happen in real life because these guys are patriots. I've trained hundreds of them. I still work with them today. I'm honored to be associated with them in my current job. So, yeah, Las Vegas is something that doesn't disturb me as much as attacks like New Orleans.
So let me ask you about New Orleans. This will be the last one for today, Dr. J. I really don't want to burn you out, and you're very generous with me. So all of our concern was this could be something that could be the beginning of a series. Thus far, that's not taken place, thank God. But do you feel like we have an adequate understanding of who this individual was, how he got radicalized, and whether or not there's others getting radicalized in the same environment that he was in?
Not yet. Because there's certain travel he participated in before the attack that for me is an indicator of how he could have ended up doing what he's doing. And I've said this publicly many, many times before. We were peddled this garbage under Obama, under Biden, the theory of lone wolf. Apart from the pathetic failure that was Jihad Jane, remember Jihad Jane out of Pennsylvania? There has never, ever, 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 ever been a real jihadi plot, a significant attack where the individual, sat in their basement and did it all by themselves. Somewhere along the line, there's another human being. There's a recruiter. There's an enabler. There's a teacher. There's an imam who blesses the quote unquote attack. There's a member of ISIS or Al Qaeda who receives the bayat loyalty oath from that jihadi. So the idea that this person just kind of radicalized by himself and then did the attack, based upon my last 24 years of analysis, I don't buy it. And I've told my colleagues in the intelligence community, I don't buy it either. So work harder. That's what I told them.
Dr. Sebastian Gorka, anything that Mike can share with the audience that you want to get off your chest or direct anyone anywhere important right now?
I would just say one thing. Be happy. Celebrate. You deserve it. You earned it. If you're one of the 77 million, crack a cold one, have a cigar. You earned it.
I totally agree. It's a very celebratory occasion, and it's interesting because I'm seeing some people out there who are trying to find little ways to nickel and dime Trump for something, and I'm seeing like, what are you doing? Like, you can enjoy yourself now. We'll be there, right? But look, we called him Amnesty Don in the first administration when he was flirting with the amnesty. He didn't even do an amnesty. He was just sort of flirting with it a little bit.
And this goes to everybody. It's like, seriously, guys, I know that pistol brace thing was hard on you, but have you just followed what the president has said about the Second Amendment lately? Everybody just chill and celebrate and revel in it. Just revel in what you achieved. Can you believe we're 29 days in? Come on, guys.
It might always be this good now. Who knows? In our new golden age. But we can't anticipate it's going to always be this good. So you've got to enjoy yourself now.
All right. Hang on. I want to do something fun for the guys. Will you call my cell phone? Hang on. No, I'll do it right now. I'll do it right now. So before I left my radio show, I have a genius engineer, Alex, who did this for me. I said, is this possible, Alex? And he said, of course it is, Dr. G. He's a real tech head. And so this is what he did for me. And this is why we all have to celebrate. It's really that simple. Recent.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore.
If you don't have that as your ringtone, guys, you're not hard.
It's one of his best quotes. It really is.
Too much winning, guys. Come on.
Well done. And Missy, you can make that a little bit cleaner for us so we can just go straight to it in post. Thank you, Missy. Beautiful. All right. Well, we'll plug Katie's the Happy Women's podcast. She did a book too recently. What was the book called again, Dr. G?
Next Gen Marxism.
Next Gen Marxism. Get that. They're your glasses. I was missing those. Missing the frames. Dr. Sebastian Gorka, it's always a pleasure.
Our President Trump is moving at lightning speed in his first weeks in office with executive orders, new policies, promises kept. It can be hard to keep up until now. Subscribe to the Trump Report. This daily email brings you highlights from the Oval Office right to your inbox 5 days a week. Get all the details on the administration's top actions that day with in-depth analysis. You stay up to date on what President Trump is doing to make America great again. Subscribe to the Trump Report today at SalemPodcastNetwork.com/Trump. That's SalemPodcastNetwork.com/Trump. Get that up-to-the-minute email every single day with Salem. All right. Thanks again to Dr. G. That's today's show. Thanks to our producer, Misty, for all the hard work she puts in, and all of you telling 10,000 friends and family members about what we do here and leaving a 5-star review, all that stuff. Very helpful. Hit the subscribe button, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.